people outside though.
Yes.
All right, it's official, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started since we are recording right now.
No.
So, welcome to our third meeting for the Community Services and Institutions Subcommittee as part of the comp plan. And you'll see what I did based on our last two meetings is put together some draft goals and objectives based on what we talked about. And a lot of this has to do with getting the word out, not just to individuals, but also talking amongst providers and being able to gather more often so people know what other people are doing and are able to coordinate better. So there's 2 pages on here. What I'd be looking for from the subcommittee is just your comments on what's written here. If there's anything we need to add or change, and then also if there's anything we're missing too in terms of a goal or an objective, we can definitely add it. Every subcommittee that we have is going through this, and so we'll have depending on the committee, different lists of goals and objectives for each section of the plan, with the idea being that the strategies are what we focus on at a staff level to try and achieve the objectives and then all the way through the goals over the next 10 to 15 years while this plan is in action. So the first thing that I took a look at is a goal of people knowing about services and where to get them. And this is kind of where we talked about messaging, communicating across a number of platforms, and then a common landing website to direct toward resources. And I wasn't sure to the extent that the Winona Community Hub could serve as something like that.
Have you checked the Live Well Winona's website?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And so would that be something that just more promotion of that might be a good thing to do?
Are you connected with Vanessa, the new local director?
No, I'm not yet.
Do you want me to send like an email invitation?
That'd be great.
And if that becomes the hub to, rather than the city website, to
Yep.
really integrate it into the city website, even to the point of putting it in as a external outbound link, but on the navigation menu.
Yep.
And probably prominently on the homepage.
Sounds great.
I haven't been on that site for a while, but what I'm recalling is it's also a great place for those who are considering relocating business or their family here, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like really loaded with things that are even economic development driven for incoming business people to consider Winona?
Yep.
And families to move here, so.
And there, I think, again, I haven't been on it for a little bit either, but there's multiple levels, where there's more of a public. And then there's also a community professional one with more details and some service providers, types of insurance they take, things like that. But there was in the past, so there are multiple layers to it.
All right, good to know. And the next one was increasing capacities for neighbors to help neighbors. And Jerry just kind of builds off of one of your comments about neighbors helping neighbors on Facebook. What are some other ideas that maybe the group has about how we can increase people's individual capacity to help each other out, maybe in a more informal setting versus a more formal like call or something like that? So perhaps something in terms of facilitating social media connections among residents.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan of neighborhood parties. We've done one in our neighborhood for about 20 years now. And a bunch of us started when we had young kids with it. Well, actually,
Start from ECFB.
Katie Smith was advocating that. And so we actually did that. And again, it's so simple, but the economic and social benefits that come from even those formal exchanges that happen over the course of, a 2-hour potluck. You can't measure those, but you see them over and over and over again.
I think that's when we were doing community engaged parent advocacy through the University of Minnesota, and that was one of their like grassroots efforts. to build that capacity, so it's, I mean, it was definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it fits in with your emergency management plan.
Yep.
You know, if people know who their neighbors are and who needs to get out, who might be disabled.
Yep.
Watching kids, everything.
Definitely.
Especially after the pandemic, when people have been forced into isolation,
Ah.
knowing how to do that, they need prompts, is what I'm finding, is that they don't know how to do that. We see that in our ECB classes, is that we don't know how to do this anymore. We don't know how to do that group setting. They need like a structure to do it, and then it evolves and bubbles up on its own once the format's given to them.
I know the city has been helpful with that, but you know, our group, our neighborhood group now, we know how to do it. I'm not sure that other people are even aware that there's support from the city to do this kind of thing, so it may be super low hanging fruit along the lines of.
Yep.
Woven into whatever communication. Did you know the city of Winona has this neat 4-page PDF about how to do a neighborhood party? And we'll support you in these ways.
Definitely.
Is the police department involved? I've seen in some communities where then when these are organized, they do have drop-ins again, just to get people, you know, to think of police in a different light, that, you know, they're there
It's
to
just like-
support you.
Yeah, it's not different than like when the first week in October is fire awareness
Yes.
week, and the
Yes,
fire
yes.
departments and Goodview and one on our open houses, and they come in, and it's those type of events that people need to get going again.
Mhm.
And when I was doing baby connection visits, and we still do them, but you can kind of see neighborhoods kind of evolve into different cycles where they go through young families to school age, then retirement, and then they sell, and it starts over again. It'd be even kind of interesting to pull in some of your realtors to see where the change in demographics, as well as the city of Winoo's
Yep.
authority, to see where the demographics are and who may not be as established of a neighborhood anymore, because all of a sudden, like, not Violet's got a ton of baby, visits out there for around, then, you can just kind of see the turnover in houses.
Yeah.
And then it starts another generation, and that's where you need to rejuvenate maybe some of those neighborhood opportunities.
That's really
Where people have been for a while and then do
Yeah.
the transition.
Yeah,
Yep.
for a little while, it was all kind of central down by kind of Cotter, between Cotter and the high school. There's like a whole bunch of families. Now I can see all those kids are hitting junior high.
Mhm.
It's just kind of interesting. You can kind of see that go through different neighborhoods and house sales and stuff like that. So the 430 and some of those realtors would be really
Mhm.
interesting to pull into that demographic. Our 0 to 5 population right now for the school district, when we do the boundary count, is heavy in the WK boundary. That's where the most of our young children are.
Hmm.
So you can kind of see that was it shifts. For a little while, it was in Jefferson, but now you can see it's in WK.
Mhm.
That just kind of lets you know where the housing turnover is a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Okay, great, that helps, definitely. And then I have here, in terms of regular messaging about programs, are there any ideas about just getting the word out, whether it's social media or whether it's web-based or whether it's print media? Any types of additional regular messaging you think is especially important when you're talking about programs that are currently existing or available to people?
And I think we've sort of covered all of that in previous meetings, but like Anne mentioned, as expensive as it is, it probably makes some sense to put out a print piece.
Yep.
Even if it's a trifold thing that refers people to a website.
Yep.
To do that maybe once a year, a city newsletter.
Yep.
And I know it's expensive, but
It gets out to everybody then, when it goes out as a mass mailing.
Mhm.
and it's interruptive, unlike email or social media or whatever, you can stay off of that, things can get buried, everyone goes out and gets the mail, at least to start to toss stuff into the trash, but if it comes from the city, people will definitely see it.
We could send it with our utility bills, that way you get a bill for one thing, but hey, there's all these programs over here on the other hand, how about that?
Actually, that's a really
It's
good
not bad.
idea.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
We do it inside your schools, a couple times a year. It's the same thing. That's to promote us
Sure.
with other parent groups that were already getting out emails to and things like that.
Perfect. That helps. Thank you.
I think we said considering having a communications director who would be citywide. Obviously, that's a big budget cost, so.
I think you're gonna hear that come from a number of other committees as well. So hopefully that adds weight to the need for something like that. Definitely. Okay, great. The next goal I have is increased communication among service providers. Not that you all don't already talk, but how do we create better cross education? And we had talked about kind of like a share out or, you know, some type of summit or something like that. That could be one strategy. Any other ideas for getting cross education among service providers? This does kind of lump into the second one too a little bit in terms of creating a communications plan for both formal and informal gatherings. You know, I think it'd be nice to, in addition to having a formal gathering where you have a formal presentation, have a platform for or a strategy for informal gatherings as well. People to hang out, get to know each other.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that some kind of informal, even if it's just, we're gonna put out cheese plates and fruit and there'll be maybe a spotlight presenter, kind of like the chambers. What's that called?
Well, they have network nights.
The network nights, that's what
And
it's.
that's where you go to the location of the business.
So that could be really
It
cool.
could be to the, yeah, it could rotate, but I think, yeah, offering in person is just valuable. It does give an opportunity, as much as we are all now zooming, you know, it gives an opportunity for people to really see face to face and I don't think measuring success means necessarily, you know, hundreds of people, you know,
Yep.
you gather a few people and it's worthwhile because there can be connections made that really make big impacts.
And Jen, I'll ask you, just in terms of these first two goals and some of these objectives that we've taken a look at here, do you have any comments or additions?
No, I listened in on the last meeting that I missed and heard some of Jerry's comments as well on kind of the regular messaging and programs. I agree with sending printout because as we've found at volunteer services and Habitat that, you know, a lot of the people we're trying to hit don't have computers or, you know, can't access email. So it's, if you're trying to hit everyone, as much as I don't like getting mail, 100% agree with sending it out. I know that there is a few, I think, quarterly meetings among some of the service providers currently. I don't know what they're called because I haven't attended them, but I know like Sandra Burke and others get together quarterly to talk about things like that. She might be, you know, maybe it's something you guys are already attending, but that seems like a nice collaboration zone, but I'm not sure what it's called. I can definitely talk to her.
Probably the nonprofit roundtable, maybe.
Maybe that sounds.
Yeah, I'm familiar with WANA, W-A-N-A, Winona County Nonprofit Association.
Yeah.
We posted it at one on the state and I've had a presenter on a certain topic and help coordinate that. So that group could be a source.
Say that again.
WANA, Winona Area Nonprofit Association.
Okay.
Nancy Brown, Doug Grout, Eric Severs. I'm just thinking of a few that I interfaced with. Doug of Semcac, Eric of Iowa Valley. Yeah.
Cool.
Nancy, yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah, we
keep going.
posted.
That's awesome.
some
All
of
right,
those.
great.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we kind of have the infrastructure for some of this kind of already in place in different areas, which I don't doubt, but just getting the word out a little bit more. Wonderful. All right, we'll keep on moving ahead here. Next goal, funding needs and outcomes for community services and programs are better understood. So the objectives here I had public education, public officials education, and then education too. We were thinking, in addition to people who are the heads of organizations, kind of one step below that, maybe the people that are a little bit more operationally involved. And just wondering your thoughts about that, as well as a cross-community funding request strategy. And this is something that you'll see in another couple of goals too, but just being able to align our resources when we do those asks, I think is an important thing. And just any comments or additions to those objectives, or if you have any specific strategies related to those objectives, would be helpful.
So increased education funding, so public, private, and grant and foundation, I mean, anything, is that kind of open?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know much, and it's because I haven't been watching the Winona Foundation, like what type of activity they're funding.
That's what I was just thinking of too.
Okay, because I know of them, but I just don't,
Yeah,
I don't know that I've.
Yeah.
Known of what projects they support.
Are you thinking of that related to a cross-community funding request strategy, or?
Possibly,
Yeah.
one
Okay.
of, one of, I'm sure there's.
they're the umbrella for several organizations that are
Yep.
community based, so they would
Yeah.
be a good.
Yeah.
Starting point versus
Mhm.
reinventing the wheel.
Definitely.
Funding needs for, who is our target? Funding needs for startup business, or funding needs for nonprofits that need more operating dollars? Is it kind of everything?
Just essentially what nonprofits and community service organizations in Winona need to function and to continue to provide their services.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Right.
Something like, $1 of this helps this many people, or,
Oh,
however
yeah,
much
yeah. The
information
ROI.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any specific styles of public education that your organizations have found more persuasive, or that gain traction more than others, such as like that ROI type of thing, or anything that you found that resonates with people a little bit more? Anything we should specifically highlight in this plan?
I don't know that it's necessarily a strategy, but just having like someone who has built trust with different communities, like we do outreach with the Amish communities within the county, and like we have trust built within that community. So if they have healthcare needs, they reach out to the county. So I don't know, maybe if there were some like centralized city person who were like, oh, that's the city guy.
Yep.
Mhm.
Definitely. And then we had talked about education for public officials. Maybe this could be part of that summit type idea where you would invite public officials to the summit, so.
And for those community resources and organizations and nonprofits that are highlighted, in the education piece, any opportunity to use infographics that are just a simple and clear, I found that really easy, much more easier to not only drive home the impact, but then also to visually be able to share the information.
Definitely. Sounds good. Okay. Any other comments related to that? Next, I have better mental health resources for residents. It sounds like we already do a good job through the programs here at Winona State, and through kind of what we have established already. Getting mental health counselors here, it's just retaining them, that's the issue, or that can be difficult at times. As well as another objective, enhancing the capacity of public safety agencies to respond to mental health calls. And I think this is where we had mentioned a social worker, fire department, or the police would be very helpful.
Mhm.
So any ideas besides paying a bunch more for mental health counselors to keep them here to Winona?
The other point that I think I raised last meeting too was of the resources for community members, those of us who are not mental health professionals, that there are programs like mental health first aid and some of those other resources that I think if we were able to raise greater awareness,
Mhm.
we could, definitely move the dial and equip people who are not the professionals, but those of us who
Yeah.
interface with the public in all different ways.
And FCC was like that.
We should fund it, so.
And should
Oh,
we
there
bring
you
it to
go.
the-
Like a big collaborative event.
Yeah.
There's funding. and
And that's the
That would be a neat
statewide,
idea.
statewide health improvement plan.
Yeah, and FCC
Partnership,
has
yes,
the
thank you.
certification to do the training.
Okay, and I, through one other state, we
You
have
have a-
certified trainers as well. Yeah.
Sounds-
FCC, Family Community,
And the Children's Center,
Family Children's Center, okay.
very high.
So that would be something where you're enhancing the capacity of people just at organizations to be able to.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was.
and if we could get a grant for it and didn't come as an additional cost for staff development money for different businesses.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't have to be service providers, it can be some of our manufacturing facilities,
Yeah,
it can
right,
be,
anyone, right.
it can be anyone.
That was like my example
Yeah.
last time when I was talking about the manufacturer and then the police department,
Yeah.
both responding and having
Yeah.
a common
Anything.
understanding, right?
Yeah.
So huge.
Which
Yeah.
would focus in on that resilient Winona too, would be a good goal for
Yes.
Winona County, and they
Yes.
apply for different grants as well, and have different trainers, so.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
You were joking about paying mental health professionals more to get them to stay here. It might be good to do a summit. Gather all of the local mental health professionals together and just brainstorm this issue, and see what would help. I bet if you got even 20 of them in a room together, they would have some pretty good ideas of what could help both with recruitment and retention. And who knows? I mean, maybe there's something creative that can be done that incentivize people to stay. We do tip districts to get businesses to start up. Maybe there's something similar for mental health.
Including the legislators at whatever level of, because it's money. It's money.
Yep.
It's money, but also available housing and childcare and different things like
All
that. I
the
know.
things that
Yeah.
interlace with it, yeah.
And my husband's an admin in different, just local areas, school district, but he's like, can't find new staff that are trying to move to the community, can't find housing.
Right,
And so then they can't, then you can't hire somebody when you're competing with someone else and you can't find housing in the community, but you can find housing in another community. It's a no-brainer to not come to it. I'm sure that's tight and childcare.
I hear that across all sectors. really.
Yeah.
It's,
The child care piece is huge.
Not so much in the, like, our statistics are there, but infant and toddler care is tough.
Yeah.
Preschools, because we have so many nonprofits that are putting preschools in there as a feeder program into their programs, the parochial schools. do that.
oh, right.
And it's more of a money maker than infant toddler care is not a profit age group to work with. So we're not as tough on our preschool spots as we are on our toddlers. Infant toddlers are very tough. Which if the city wanted to get behind some type of program that was community based, that would help all the different factors of employment for Winona.
Definitely. Well, and it's becoming, that's something too that we're seeing in the economic development section of the plan and the housing section of the plan is that people need to find a house. People, once they have their job, they want to be able to integrate themselves in the community. And if there's not the opportunity, then that's an opportunity that's lost,
Right.
Yeah. So
Is
definitely.
there any discussion in that area about revitalizing housing? I think especially of the East End, but it's everywhere. Has been any discussion about that?
Definitely, definitely. And so a lot of the economic development, focus in the past 20, 30 years has been, how do you get big businesses to come in, or how do you incentivize businesses? So now that's kind of flipped on its head, where now, you have the businesses, but it's livability that is your economic development. So how do you increase livability? How do you provide housing that people need? How do you provide amenities that people like to go to? How do you provide connections to different places that people want to go? That's more economic development now. So I think you'll see our Port Authority, for instance, transitioning from, some of the more subsidy type of thing for businesses to more of, how can we incentivize and increase the overall general livability? So,
Yeah.
yes, there are discussions about that, definitely. And I think you'll see a lot of that in this plan as well.
Good.
Jen, any comments from you over the last two goals here that we just discussed, funding needs and outcomes, and then federal mental health resources for residents?
No, these are a little outside of my wheelhouse, but completely agree with what you guys are talking about. And I mean, just in general, bringing people here and housing and childcare. And I mean, that's not really specific to mental health, but just everybody's struggling with that right now. So that's tricky.
Definitely. All right, we are cruising through. The last goal that I have listed is coordinated physical space and facilities planning among community institutions. So in addition to the people and coordinating people, we also want to try and coordinate our facilities and what we have to offer. So I have regular meeting among community institution leaders, and I know this happens probably informally right now, probably among the smaller groups of people, but maybe it'd be better to do something a little bit larger. Then again, among department heads, that one level down, besides the CEO or the president of the university, for instance. And then across community funding request strategy for capital projects. So if somebody's going for state bonding this year, maybe the next year, this person or this organization goes for bonding, that type of thing. So
Instead of everybody going.
at the same time,
Okay.
and then nobody,
Easier.
so. Any thoughts or additions related to these? And my last question is, any goals or objectives that we want to add to the list? If there aren't any now, and something comes up between this meeting and our next meeting, that would be greatly appreciated. But what I'd look to do is to, based on our conversation today, is come up with some strategies here. And create another draft document here for perhaps what would be our last meeting before we look at reporting to the steering committee. And so the steering committee, what we do is have 2 meetings in September, and it'd be nice to identify somebody from this group, either who is here today, preferably somebody who's not here today, since they could get to the next meeting and talk, so that they're the representative. So yeah. But what we'd like to do is identify a representative, somebody to go to the steering committee and basically kind of present our slate of recommendations. That's all I have for today, unless there are any other comments, discussion, any questions. I think we're entering into the time when people are taking vacations and whatnot, so. We're trying to get people to the table as much as possible, but also realize that we're in the middle of summer. So
Other people.
yep. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I will go ahead and put this together in a draft, and we'll schedule one more meeting here. Maybe we can look perhaps 3 weeks out here. Meet the 3rd week of August. Is this a good time? Obviously, it is for those who are here, but
Are you looking at the week of the 15th or the 22nd?
I'm looking at the week of the 22nd right now.
Okay. That's one of those.
It's at this time. Same time.
Yep.
22nd?
Yep.
That work?
Jen, how about for you?
That Monday, I am likely gonna be in my Minneapolis office, but I think I can probably join with Zoom still, so.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll go ahead on the 22nd and plan from 2:30 to, we'll schedule it till 3:30. If we get done like we did today, it's be 2:30 to 3:05. So there we go. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks again, everybody. Thanks for attending, and we'll see you in another 3 weeks here.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.